make a Marvel joke?
Oh, very well.
Okay. Thanos is gonna wish that he watched this one before his big fight, because today we're going to talk about how to counter the Thor. The Thor is the Terran's heavy assault mech. Designed for prolonged frontline combat, these guys pack a serious punch. They can be built from a factory that has a tech lab attached so long as an armory is present on the map. These bad boys cost $200 to produce, build in 43 seconds, and take up 6 supply. 400 health, 1 base armor, and 2.62 movement speed. They may be slow to get somewhere, but their wrath is final. Their anti-ground attack, aptly named Thor's Hammer, is comprised of 2 shots, each dealing 30 damage, increasing by 3 points per upgrade. So, yeah, 60 damage every 0.9 seconds. Yikes. Their anti-air attack is slightly complicated because they technically have 2 modes to choose from, which can be toggled via the button on the command card. By default, Thors exit the factory equipped with their explosive payload mode, aka javelin missile launchers. In this mode, the anti-air attack is splash damage, 4 missiles that each deal 6 damage or 12 versus light targets. I'll let you do the math, but suffice to say, it's a pretty good option versus things that tend to group up, like Mutas or Phoenix, for example. The second mode, High Impact Payload, is a longer range single target mode, dealing 25 damage or 35 versus massive targets. Much more helpful for focusing down priority targets such as broodlords, carriers, or battle cruisers. If you're one of those weird Terrans that likes to get the smart servos research from the factory's tech lab, you will be pleased to know that it allows Thors to transform between these anti-air modes much more quickly. Because you never know when those surprise broodlords will just blink into battle.
Search complete.
Thors are incredibly durable and can deal tremendous damage in the right situation. Their ability to serve as an anchor for a push, similar to siege tanks, can make them a great addition to a bio composition. They deter attacks from light units like Mutas and can soak up banelings like a super marauder. Alternatively, they are a fantastic answer to late-game air powers, such as carriers or broodlords. I have to also acknowledge the disgusting possibility that one can just mass Thors as a mech composition. Since Thors can be so difficult to kill, it forces some specific responses from the opponent. If your opponent is caught unaware, the game is very likely to end quickly in your favor. One final note on controlling Thors: they tend to prioritize targeting air units over ground units. Just make sure you don't let them get distracted by those pesky overseers. Thors can be an incredibly powerful force. Epic damage and impressive durability. Their greatest strength, and perhaps the most infuriating aspect of countering them, is how little they need to be microed. They're one of those units that typically takes much more effort to deal with than it does to use. It's just an unfortunate fact that we're going to have to get over. Let's recap their weaknesses. They're highly expensive, supremely immobile, and vulnerable to being overwhelmed. Generally speaking then, you need to construct a force that either overwhelms the Thors or destroys them so decisively that your opponent has to reflect on their poor life choices. Terrans. Thors are a rare sight in TVT, but it can happen. The standard TVT build of Marine, Siege Tank, Viking is a great starting point to counter. If you're opting for a more bio-based play, you'll want to add in some Marauders as a great anti-armor option. If you're a mech lover yourself, lean more heavily into the Siege Tanks and the Vikings. No, the Vikings are not for the Thors, but actually they might be decent in their ground mode. They're more for shutting down the Liberators, so that your tanks can reign supreme. Protoss players. Thors are usually only seen if you made the dirty, no-good move of massing Sky Toss units. The best answers to Thors come from switching into either of the other tech paths. Charge lots can overwhelm the Thors, but they're not as reliable versus a massed mech army that's entrenched in a good spot. I present to you the wonders of the robotics facility. Immortals are a fantastic choice to give your army a durable backbone against the armored mech units in a straight-up engagement. But the real powerhouse here is the Disruptor. Disruptors have their Purification Nova ability, a long-range splash attack that is deadly against slow targets. It takes 3 shots to kill a Thor, and the Nova has a long-ish cooldown, but it is a perfect way to bully or goad the Terran into taking a bad fight against your robust army of Immortals, Archons, and Charge Lots. Fellow Zerg enthusiasts, it feels disgustingly common to see Thors make an appearance, as mech is very viable against Zerg. The first bad news I have is that it takes considerable effort to effectively destroy a fully fledged mech army. Talking about the Thors exclusively, let's discuss some options from the Zerg stew. Zerglings, Roaches, Ravagers, and Lurkers. The Lings can overwhelm, but they are terribly brittle and less reliable than the other options in my opinion. Roaches and Ravagers can box well and cause chaos in the Terran's lines with corrosive bile. Hive-Tech Lurkers are your ultimate answer, long-range attack and cost-efficient to a fault. The second bad news that I have is that spellcasters are pretty much mandatory to have a chance against mech in direct combat. Take your pick between Vipers and Infestors. Vipers, with the use of Abduct and Blinding Cloud, are your more reliable choice. Infestors, on the other hand, well, they're the more fun choice. Neural Parasite is a gamble, because the Infestor could be killed, but if it goes undetected, you are literally using the enemy's Thors against them. And the best counter to a Thor is indeed a Thor. Whether to protect or to decimate, you can always count on the Norse Pantheon to get the job done. I hope this was helpful. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great day.